Okay, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a total of 21 people, which I'm really thrilled because, as we were saying, now with the ease of the lockdown, we were not really sure how the turnout will be. My name is Araceli Gallego. I am the founder of Goshopia.com, which is an e-marketplace for slow and sustainable fashion. I'm also fashion editor in Dubai Fashion News, and I'm also fashion revolutionary, as many of you may be too. Today, we have with us a very interesting panel. We're going to be discussing about the COVID-19, and we're going to be discussing also about if the UAE is actually mature to embrace sustainable fashion or not. So let me introduce you to our esteemed panelists. Today, we have Maura Morris. She has such a big bio. I'm going to read a little bit of it. With a career spanning 2 decades in the global fashion industry, director of Morris Fashion Consultancy, Maura Morris is a global expert in the business of luxury fashion. With a background in fashion design, product development, and business innovation, Maura has enormous passion for both creativity and business and has excelled in the industry and has become a world-renowned industry advisor, working around the globe for clients ranging from emerging designers to established international brands and stockists such as Harrods and Galeries Lafayette. And not only that, she's an amazing, amazing fashion consultant. She has helped many, many brands I know. And she is an advocate for sustainability, for good business practices. So she has amazing opinions about things. So I'm really, really thrilled to have you today here, Maura. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, Araceli. Lovely to be here.
Then we have also Sian Rowlands. She is the mastermind behind Retold. I mean, what can we say? Everybody here probably knows Retold. If you don't, you're not in not in Dubai. Basically, she broke the rules. Started we could say it's a second hand, but it's a luxury vintage. Is a heaven for sustainability, really. She has a beautiful shop in the, what is the address, Sian, really? How can we say?
On Sakim Road.
In Sakim Road. So I invite all of you guys to go check it out now that we are going to be able to come. Exactly, once we are back to business. And otherwise, you can even still be buying online through the Instagram page. They're always very active, posting pictures of new stuff coming. So you have really like the latest things always online. Then we also have Vino Supraja. Vino is one of my designers in Goshopia, and I admire her so very much. I really wanted her to be part of this today. Vino is an architect turned fashion designer, and then she twisted everything around and she created his unique concept where she's mixing all her passions, which is architecture, fashion, and sustainability, and created a new concept, very unique, where all her pieces have such a beautiful story. And I love the fact that she gets hands-on into each and every detail of every piece. It's not only about the design. She goes and sits down with the weavers in India and stays there for 3 months and making sure that they are having an amazing, that have proper living conditions, that they have good time working, and everything is, you know, really, really awesome person. Vino, thank you so much for joining, because your path is very much of interest to actually the fashion revolution.
Thank you, my pleasure.
And we also have Ashish Kumar here in the corner. He actually completed fashion management course in India and then went to work in Indonesia. He was in Indonesia for 7.5 years and moved to Dubai, joined Landmark Group as a buyer, and then after started his own company, which is called Stitch Pile Garment. From Stitch Pile Garment, he is able to design and source. So it's basically the other side of the supply chain. Today, we're going to be talking about the different impacts of COVID So we cannot be only on the surface. We have to go a little bit deeper. And Ashish is going to give us a hand about actually what happens behind the scenes. So thank you so much for all of you to be here. And let's start with some questions. If you guys are having any questions, please feel free to, I think there is a button where you can raise a hand. Otherwise, just write them in here on the side, and we will just go read them at the end or something. Yeah. So first question I have for all of you is, do you think fashion can be really sustainable? Is this an achievable challenge? I would love to have your views, Ashish. Let's start with you.
See, sustainable fashion for me is a very good thing, because I was reading some Forbes magazine, some article. They're saying that right now in like 2019, so whatever the water pollution is happening, 20% of the water pollution contributing from the fashion industry, fashion and textile, because a lot of dyeing. And they're expecting to increase it to by 26% or 27% by 2050. So sustainability, we need, of course, we need a sustainability, but I feel, the infrastructure for that is not still enough for all the country to work it, to make it a very cost effective right now. Because a lot of things are included there, which is like, for example, simple thing for the dyeing of the fabric. If you use an organic dye, okay, it's not durable. So a lot of things is there. Then and then sustainability can be on a different phase. For example, like, okay, it can't be a one garment of 100% sustainability. Sustainable fabric, because you need a fabric, you need a trade, you need a dyeing, you need every product to be coming from the organic material. So that is really tough for any supplier to do the 100% of sustainable garment. Yes, part sustainability is possible, okay, because maybe you can take the organic yarns, okay, organic cotton, and you can do, but still you can use a thread and other materials, all the chemical stuff. But that's what I feel that slowly can go from the supplier side. From the retail side, I feel, that, okay, the cost of the garment is so much that, okay, the people will not will be ready to buy 100% of the sustainable garment right now. Because if
but do you think more than about the cost itself, the question is, can we expect the fashion really as an industry to be sustainable? Is it achievable? Does not regard the cost at this moment. Like, is it something that is possible? Is it feasible?
It is feasible, of course it is feasible, but everybody has to understand that, okay, your garment will not going to last so long. Because in matter of like a color fastness, it will not last. Okay, but the consumer has to understand that point, okay, before buying all these things. That so, but it's not like it's not possible. Is it possible? But when it will take time. So right now, I think for me, it's really because of the lack of infrastructure, and the cost structure, what is going to happen. And then overall, the quantities, because this minimum order quantity is a big thing, that lot of new brands who are coming in, they want to have a sustainable things in their range of collections. They are not able to do because of the minimum order quantity. That's a big issue that we are facing.
It's something that all designers face. Is a real trouble. Maura, do you think we can be sustainable in fashion?
I have mixed feelings on this, to be honest, guys, because I think it kind of falls into two camps, the whole sustainability conversation. I think there's sustainable practices with regards to manufacturing and the development process and all of that, which actually has not changed very much over the years. But then there's also sustainable consumption. So there's kind of two ways you can approach sustainability in, within the fashion industry. I don't think it's very feasible at the moment because of the way the processes are. And like Ashish was saying about the minimum quantities, they're a big problem. And I suppose the main issue with that is, yes, technically you could make production completely sustainable, but the general public will not pay for what that end product is going to be. And until we change our habits from that point of view and understand the value and how much it actually costs to make a garment completely sustainable, that is where the problem is. And unfortunately, I don't really see that changing unless every person in the Western world has a complete change of heart. And not to be cynical, but you know what, we're all the same. None of us are exempt here. It's cost of product over you want to look nice. It's aesthetics over the cost of the product. And more often than not, do you really think about that side of it if you want something nice to wear on your weekend out? That's where the problem is. You know, it's us actually. So
I think it's the consumers. We need to change our behavior and understand.
Exactly. Yes, we can make production completely sustainable, but are people willing to pay for that? That's ultimately what it is. And to be perfectly honest, a huge percentage of the world cannot pay for that. So if you have the budget, it's okay. It becomes a choice for you. But the majority of people don't have that budget and can't afford that. So that brings us then into the sustainable consumption side of things. So you can also be sustainable even with a high street garment or something like that. You know, you can have sustainable practices around a garment. So there's kind of that side of it as well. But I honestly think that until we kind of start to see the value in all of this dead stock, season on season on season on season, you know, that's all new stock as well, you know. So until we see the value in it, nobody wants old stock anymore. And now the seasons have become so short with so many multiple drops and things like that. I think that has become its own, like, I think the industry as a whole, particularly around the conversation about sustainability, because it, you know, yes, you know, I'm generalizing here, but it does tend to be the lower cost items. Most independent brands and things like that are fairly sustainable these days because they're producing small quantities, usually themselves or with a local production or something like that. Again, obviously I'm generalizing, but I think that's where that real problem is with sustainability, is that throwaway culture that we've all become a part of. And, you know, when you think about it, 50 years ago, fashion was a lot more sustainable because people were less product. So again, it's us. We're the problem.
It's us.
We have become too spoiled. We love our big wardrobes. We love multiple this and that and whatever. So, you know, is that going to change? Because all practices can change. You know, we can implement everything behind the scenes if the end consumer is willing to change with us.
Totally. And I think also the end consumer, once they understand or they get to know, like what happened in my case, I used to be a fast fashion consumer all the time, and I didn't know. But thanks to Aisha, actually, in one event many years ago, I got to see some statistics, and it really opened my eyes to a new reality I didn't know. And once you know, you cannot unknown. I don't know. So basically, I think it's a matter. Yes, it's true. In my case, for example, it's a personal choice. I decided not to buy so much and buy better quality. At the end of the day, I'm not spending more money than what I used to before. But instead of in zillion garments that are gonna last a wash, I buy better quality. So that in my case,
I think the education side of it as well comes into it as well, like you said, quite rightly, Araceli. But, you know, you can, like, this current situation has obviously made people really look at their lives a little bit differently. But, like, this conversation has been going on for years. And has anything really changed? Like, you know, even in a production point of view, we have loads of brands who I work with who want to use fully sustainable textiles and fully sustainable kind of processes and stuff like that, but they're not commercially available yet. Like people are doing amazing stuff with, you know, vegan leathers and pineapple leathers and grape skins and all of this kind of stuff, but it's not readily available because it's not commercially priced yet. So while we're kind of slowly kind of getting there, you know, I really think it needs to take a mass shift to get this really to where it needs to be.
Yeah, and actually all this kind of like connects with my next question. If the UAE as a market and the GCC as a region, kind of like the Middle East, is ready for sustainable fashion, because of course we know it comes as a price with a price tag. So Vino, would you want please to tell us what your thoughts on this? Do you think we are ready?
Yeah, from the brand perspective, I would say people are ready to listen. People are hearing a lot about sustainability and sustainable fashion these days than how much they were listening to it for the before 2 years or 3 years ago. So people are ready to listen. But if you ask me that if they have made up their mind to buy only sustainable products, or if they have got that gyan of what fashion is doing to this earth, no, I would say they are not Googling only for sustainable fashion and then going to that store and buying. They come to you because they like your design, and that product being sustainable makes them feel extra good. It's just an extra feel good factor, and they buy the product. They don't come to you because you are sustainable. It's only the design again pulling them inside. But now that people are talking about it, people want to listen about it more. I think there will be a change eventually, and this lockdown situation has given a lot of time for everyone to introspect. So talking now makes more sense because, you know, we have been hearing a lot that Mother Nature has pressed the reset button, and, you know, the world is like kind of earth is healing itself and things like that. So people have time to listen. People have time to think. So talking about that now will bring in a change, I hope.
Yeah, Sean, what is your take on this one? Do you think we are mature enough to embrace sustainable fashion? In your case, you already have a business, and it's a totally different view because the price point is different for retail.
It's not just the price point, you know, sustainable fashion, as Ashish said, is we need to tackle all aspects of it. And what we're doing at Retail is just one small aspect. But I mean, I have quite a cynical view on society in terms of, I think there needs to be major changes in mindset across all of society. I don't think we can just look at fashion as a singular aspect of it and expect people to jump on board with sustainable fashion and not look at their lifestyles as a whole. I think, you know, I agree in the sense that, you know, sort of 50, 60, 70 years ago, fashion was an entirely different thing. And I sometimes wish we were back then when we could actually, you know, stop the media snowballing the desire to have more fashion. And I think it's been a sort of an accumulation over the last 50 to 70 years that's led us where we are. And I don't think there's going to be an easy fix. I don't think it's going to be an easy switch. And I think the UAE is a really interesting place because it's a really exciting place, and it's very easy to sort of test new ideas, and you know, we can all kind of be at the forefront of new and exciting innovation. But I think it's quite hard to actually do that. You have to push really, really hard, and you have to be very, very determined, as all the panelists you know, here can vouch for. But I think it's also very close-minded. It's a very shiny community. It's a very shiny society. Everyone loves, you know, their designer bags and the status symbols and going out to brunches and all of that. And I think unless that drastically changes, which it's not, because the whole economy is based on that, then I think it's gonna continue to be a really hard road.
Yeah. So what do we need to do to basically make or create that awareness and be able to shift, you know, a little bit the mindset of the consumers? What do you guys think? How can we educate them?
Continue lockdown for another year.
For me,
for sure. I think that's.
See, I'll say I want to put a point here, because, like, if you see in Dubai right now, people, this government is making a reserve parking for the green cars. So, government is taking an initiative to promote the batteries, this car, you know, which is a zero emissions car. The same way, somewhere government has to take an actions, or some initials to promote all these things, the people who's doing all these things.
I
And
completely agree with Ashish, because I think the government has a very big hand in this.
Yeah,
yes,
And if
regulation.
yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
for example, the taxes, just not in Dubai, but even globally, if they decrease the taxes for companies who are being sustainable and increase the taxes for the others, I think that's also going to make a big difference for
Big difference. And
production-wise. Yeah,
for the awareness also, then people will see that, okay, if your people are wearing a sustainable fabric, they're getting a privilege, or the brand who's selling that one, they are
true,
getting privilege, so of course the people will see and feel around that, okay, there's something
absolutely.
new coming and government is promoting all these things. So one part is the government, but I feel like, okay, after COVID, this is more tougher. I little bit disagree with Sian here, because this lot of people are getting unemployed here, and the disposable income will be very less.
Mm,
So the people will now spend less on their garments, because they will, of course, they will buy the necessities what they are having. So in that case, the value retail, so value retail will grow. And so with the growing, I mean, and value retail will never do a sustainable fashion, actually. And even in terms of UAE, where 80% population is expat population, and that 80% population, you see the majorities of worker here. So people coming from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Philippines, they're not aware, they're not on that salary bracket, or they're not of that awareness that, okay, what is a sustainable fashion right now. So they buy the shirt, they want to buy in a 30 dirham, 40 dirham, 50 dirham maximum. So, and then any brand, they can't produce that garment in for that low cost. So to have this, the sustainability thing, the first thing that the government has to do, whether it's in a production country, that, okay, they have to give the preference, the infrastructure and all, to promote the sustainable fabric garments, this whole activities in their production countries also.
I
So
mean,
that,
that's true. I mean, it's not just that. It's what happened with Bangladesh, for example, when the government went in and actually set standards and set rules. The companies, the brands, started pulling out of Bangladesh because they said, well, if the company is saying this is the minimum they would charge to make an outfit, but we want to pay even less, so we'll find another country to make it. So they started pulling out of the production from Bangladesh, which made them lose their income. And then the government in Bangladesh said, oh, well, the economy is going down now, so we will just remove our restrictions. And they just removed the restrictions soon after that. It's like it's modern day slavery. I mean, exactly what's happening. It's, people
Based on a greedy society.
exactly, and the brands don't want to pay a minimum wage, and they want to look for some other countries. They don't have such restrictions. And I mean, look at that scenario. I mean, it's really sad. It's really sad that the brands would take this kind of a stand, and they don't really care. So
Yeah.
there's a lot has to be done from a lot of aspects, like the government, the
and
consumer.
also
Yeah,
sustainability is a bigger umbrella. There are a
true.
lot of things that come under that. For example, like renting a wardrobe, and resale, and less consumption of power and water, using organic fibers, and there are many things that come under the bigger umbrella. While talking about the COVID situation, I think 2-3 things among these will bloom again. Like, for example, he said people, as Ashish said, people will be thinking more about spending. So I have a feeling that the resale market and the renting market is going to bloom, because people
True.
don't want to spend their money on just buying, And I also
Roshan.
think the fashion calendar of the fast fashion brands is going to change. I don't think they will be able to produce 52 collections a year, right? They already have the problem of stocked up their inventories in their godowns.
Correct.
They don't know what they're going to do with it. So
Correct.
I think the fashion calendar, the whole business model of the fast fashion companies are going to change. So the slow fashion concept is also going to bloom. So there is a sunny side to the whole COVID situation in terms of sustainable fashion. I think there is no other choice, but these things will definitely flourish in the future?
They have
No, I
to.
said people
I
will
hope so.
reduce. Yeah, of course. See, I'm not saying. See, you go to the Hugo Boss store, or Tommy Hilfiger, Banana Republic, or any, even for the Splash, So all the Zara, H&M, they all do such, but only one collection they will do the sustainable garments.
Yeah, I mean that's them showing because people are asking about it, and since they don't want to do the entire
Yes.
collection or the entire, so they want to say that, oh yeah, we're doing something sustainable. Look,
Yeah.
we've got a one
Exactly.
T-shirt. Ta-da!
Yeah, yeah.
And the
They will put
T-shirt
in the
is
window.
sustainable.
They will put in the window.
But
Exactly.
you know,
So that's greenwashing. Yeah.
Okay.
sorry,
Yeah, I want
guys.
actually to mention something that Deborah was saying before, because she has been doing very interesting comments when we were all chatting here. I want to read them out loud. For example, Deborah mentioned when it comes to the education, is social media and influencer marketing fueling bad practices and consumer habits? What do you guys think?
Yeah.
I think so.
But I think again, like just back to the last point, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Then
There are so many different I suppose legs that kind of go into this practice. Like everybody was saying there about like the 52 kind of collections, weekly stock and stuff like that. But ultimately the consumer is pushing that, which is why the brands are pushing to go to another country so they can give them that. But until actual regulation comes in for best practices in factory, best practices in retailers, and
Correct.
we as consumers will have no choice then but to slow down. If we are not getting,
I don't.
you know what I mean? If we're not getting that, if we're not
I don't.
constantly,
wait.
sorry, Sian, go on.
Yeah. I don't think the blame can solely be put on the consumer. I think it's all about supply and demand, and I think it's the business of fashion has led us that way. And I think because there aren't regulations from governments globally, I think it's been a snowball effect of one-upmanship from different brands, and then the consumers get used to from 2 seasons to 4 seasons, and then another brand is like, oh well, we can just drop some extra things here. And I think it's been a snowball effect, and I don't think that we can just say
that's what I mean. I think that
shopping and that'll be the solution.
I agree. I mean, that's what I mean. I think that the consumer is the end of that chain. So unless the restrictions that the governments have on are not being adhered to in most cases, let's be real, like the Bangladesh situation, like they bring them in because they're put under pressure, and then suddenly a year later, there's no more talk about it. Like there was a transparency report yesterday or the day before on loads of brands as well. I mean, those things are flash in the pans. They don't, somebody needs to be held accountable for those things being kept in place, because there's a big deal made about them. Then they like fall by the wayside for loads of different reasons, from processes to everything to actual manpower. And, there's so many holes in the system of trying to make this right that I think it has to be brought back. Like I said, there's just so many legs that go into it to make this actually work. And I agree with Sian. I think the consumer is almost like a byproduct of what has been happening, but everybody has a part to play in this, and it's messy at the moment.
It is very messy. Yeah, it'll take a long time actually to get everyone to be thinking the same way and working together hand in hand, because it's just difficult. It's like having your kids. They're not going to agree with each other. So.
Let me share one thought. I don't know if it's something same as, for example, now we're seeing the mask, and we are not accepting in Europe certain masks because they don't have the standard, the European standard. We should be, as Europe or as Western world, do the same with fashion and clothes. Like if the factory where it was produced doesn't have certain standards, it's a way for kind of like as a country take care of their consumers and what they are doing. And I think that will help Bangladesh down the line to actually be able to
I mean, not just Bangladesh, any of these third world countries.
Bangladesh, because we were talking about Bangladesh before, all the producing countries, if they have a certain standard that they need to be following, if they want to be selling in the European market, for example, that actually is a way to support the consumer rights and help the rest of the world without actually getting too much.
Well, that's what happened with Bangladesh. They actually put in a rules and regulations for their production.
Right. But then it was Bangladesh removing them because they saw that the economy was going down.
Yeah, because the brands weren't going to them, you know. So even if they want to set a rule, the brands have to adhere to it and they have to respect that. But the brands
but what I mean is, like, if we do this not from the end side, but from the consumer side. So if European countries say, if you want to sell in my territory, you need to have these rules in place in your factory. They're doing that
for they're setting standards for 2020, the expo here. I was told about it, and that they're setting standards for companies who are coming in, sustainable standards. With all this whole thing happening, I think they've moved the expo. So inshallah, I hope they can start some standards even here in UAE when they bring brands in.
Hopefully.
And I think
I want to read
back to the question of what can they do in the UAE to make it kind of start to change. I actually think, like I think Sian was saying earlier, it shouldn't really start with fashion. I mean, look at your home, like look at the waste in the kitchen, look at the packaging that's coming. Everybody's getting their groceries delivered now. I mean, literally every day we're throwing out a refuse bag of stuff for, like, maybe food for 2 people or 3 people or whatever. Like, I think until your normal everyday practices start becoming a bit more sustainable, then you might start to look at the other aspects of your life, like fashion.
True.
So, I think especially here for the region, because it's been traditionally very kind of flush on the packagings and on the plastic and on stuff like that. I think maybe that would be a place to start, so that people can actually start to understand the impact and then look at the other aspects of their life, because you're not going to just start at fashion, really. Yeah. You know, you have to start in your everyday simple things.
Your everyday. Yeah. And actually, it's normally the way it goes. Here.
Yeah, like you can barely buy a recycling bin here. Yeah. You know, when you actually think about it.
Funnily enough, I started my sustainability journey with fashion, and quite quickly it leaked into every aspect of my life. But for me, it was sort of the place I was quite horrified of the amount of clothes that I used to buy and not wear, and that's where the business concept came from, but also then how I sort of started taking stock of every aspect of my life. So I don't think there's any. I think it's great if someone takes a look at their life and be like, right, whether it's cleaning products, whether it's beauty products, whether it's, you know, it's any sort of small change that they can make. And when they start to, you know, discover the negative impacts that the consumerism had and the positive impacts that sustainable alternatives have, whether it's, you know, for the health, for the amount of packaging, even the amount of money that they save, because actually sustainable lifestyle is far more affordable than certainly it was 10 years ago, but then a consumeristic lifestyle is. It actually, people then start to kind of shine their spotlight on different aspects of their life. So it will come, we just need to keep pushing a lot harder.
Yeah, in my case, it came as Maura is saying. I thought actually it was pretty green, and then I was totally oblivious. I didn't know anything about the impact of my closet. I thought that by using my bottle instead of a plastic bottle, I was already helping, trying to reduce stuff. But I didn't know, for example, in my case, about my own closet until later on. So, but one way or the other, the important thing is that actually, whatever little thing we do is better for the environment, no matter in what actually department, let's put it like that, but because it's awareness at the end of the day. So I want also to read a little comment that Adela did. She was, when we were talking before, I think it's important that we don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Change needs to start somewhere, and it has to be done gradually, and it has to come from all sides, companies, consumers, governments, suppliers. Otherwise, we might see very negative backlash. So thank you, Adela, for your comment. It's really, really true. I think you're right. So let's talk about COVID and how it is impacting everywhere in the industry, in our lives, definitely. So we can see a positive side of COVID, which actually is the pollution. We are seeing levels right now that never seen before. It's amazing, really. Just like 2-3 weeks of lockdown, the impact that our daily habits have on our skies, basically. So of course, that lockdown also is impacting our business. All of us, we have business here. So how is impacting your business? How do you feel actually is impacting the whole industry? And I want also to talk about the Pay Up campaign. I don't know if you guys have heard about it. It's something that, So Pay Up is really something that is happening because many of the big brands are not paying items that were already produced, and they are not paying the factories, so the factory will not be paying the garment workers either. And it's this kind of like a change of events that actually is leading to destruction, basically. So I want to talk a little bit about this because I think it's important, because it's not only what we are suffering from the consumer side, but also from the other side of the supply chain. It's actually pretty So how is impacting your business? What do you think is how do you think is impacting the supply chain? And have you heard of cases that actually have been impacted and they need help with the Pay Up campaign? Ashish, this question is definitely for you. You are on the supply chain end, so tell us.
Yes, I was talking to some factories in Indonesia. So one of the factories, the Litex, which is like one of the biggest vendor for the sweaters for H&M. So they have H&M first, they came up like, okay, they are canceling the orders. But after 2 weeks, they when this all backlash has happened all around the world, so they came up that, okay, yes, we are not going to cancel the order. We will take these orders, whatever PO they have done. They will honor that POs, but the delivery will be for sure delayed. So whatever delivery was happening supposed to be in March, April, May, June, so everything moved to September, October, November, December. So this is just, so the deliveries are moving, but some brands like Inditex, Primark, and some other brands, they are outrightly canceling the orders, and they're not.
We are talking here not orders that were not produced. We are talking orders that were already produced, ready to be shipped. Yes. That is the thing. Because if it was an order that still didn't produce, okay, we understand there is a new situation, market is changing something. Yes. But the orders that were already produced, and we need to understand that when the big companies are buying from Ashish or from any of the factories that he works with, the payment is triggered when there is a bill of lading in between, basically. So when already the shipment is finished, all due diligence is done, and then they send the bill of lading, then the letter of credit or whatever payment terms they agreed on, then is actually when it gets paid. So even in this fact that they are not canceling the order but postponing it also is going to be affecting the factories and the workers, but at least it's not a total cancellation on this, but also it's going to be impacted. So we need to understand also that these people don't have the kind of like security that maybe in Europe we have, that you have unemployment or sick leave or special cases. So I think that's also important to know. Please, Ashish, go ahead.
For the factories in Bangladesh, I was talking to one of my factories only. So they have like 2,000 workers, operators, swing operators. So the government has told that they have to give the April salary to them before 16th of April. So the factory has paid for the 16th of April. But now for the next month, they don't have any cash flow. So from where they will pay this 2,000 workers? So they have like a fix right now what to do, because they don't have the cash flow, government is not supporting, orders are cancelled, so they really don't know what's going to happen. So same in India, a lot of factories, they don't know exactly what's going to happen, and they're in a fix right now. I mean, how to do this all. So they're saying, okay, they are not going to pay for the next month, let's see what happens. So let's how the government's coming in between and negotiating between us or the laborers or whatever. So they are simply saying right now the situation is that they are in a fix. They don't know exactly what they're talking to the buyers. Buyers are not replying. Orders are cancelling. They cannot see any new orders coming out. Even the current orders, what they have been ready or into in the line to get it ready. So because the factory has already invested fabrics in the money in the fabrics and all the trims and the materials. So $1 million and $1 million are already invested. So for them, it's a big problem actually. So right now they say only they are hoping that, okay, let's the lockdown over, then see what's government is coming with some solution or what. So they have like financially they are totally dried up right now.
I want to read something that Ritesh wrote before. Thanks, Ritesh, for your comment. Actually, it says, per McKinsey's latest reports on COVID-19 impact on consumer behavior and preferences, the fashion garment was the least priority on their purchase list. What do you think COVID-19 impact on the fashion sector? This is something that we need to take into account. Definitely, it's going to be impacting all the businesses that, such as ours, working on fashion. And yeah, so do you think like actually the pay up campaign can, someone has to pay it down the line at the end of the day, because definitely it's always worst for the end of the supply chain. Do you think the pay up campaign will help if the brands pay so that actually during these months that is going to be tough, it will, do you think that that's something that will help, Ashish, from your point of view?
See, I have not read in detail about the pay up campaign, but what I feel that the amount which is involved in this is not a small amount. It's like $1 billion. So how they're going to do it? It's only the government who can give some relief to, like for in the case of Primark. So Primark has cancelled all the orders in Bangladesh. Now this Bangladesh vendor has gone to their association, and then association gone to the minister, and they are talking to the Primark or to the brand that, okay, if you so much of money is involved, so if you're not taking, you can't enter in next time in Bangladesh. So now this type of things are happening in Bangladesh. So exactly, I mean, I think it's a government only can help, but pay up campaign, how much money, which factory, which country, I'm not very sure about that, because crowdfunding sort of things like what happens, but that is very particular for me. But for this a factory where like a $50 million, $20 million business is there, how they're going to raise that one?
Have different reliance on the industry. Like a lot of the Asian countries are heavily reliant on the fashion industry, manufacturing and stuff like that. So is there going to be like special circumstances for different countries depending on the rate of industry? Like there's so many problems with it, but like let's face it as well though, guys, even before COVID, the factories and particularly the factory workers were always the most vulnerable in the production chain, because they have massive outlays for textiles, for manpower, for all of these things before the brands ever really fully concrete their orders, and payment terms are getting stretched, more stretched and more stretched and more stretched. So they were always the most vulnerable. So, everybody's talking about, is it really going to make change in the industry and stuff like that? And I kind of think, it can only really be changed if something drastic happens with that factory setup, with the way production is being done always, not just now, because that campaign might get people out of a hole in the short term, but they're not going to be paying for orders that were not put in. You know what I mean? So maybe a short term gain to get people out of a hole now, but what's it going to do in 6 months' time when there has been no orders for 4 months? I mean, that's the real problem, and this is a governmental problem as well that they need to take seriously, because the most vulnerable are those workers in the factories in every country, because they're probably most likely the lowest paid in that particular country, including Europe or wherever you are. So until that becomes a priority, I don't really see a huge way out of that. We can all change our mindsets, we can all change everything, but those people are the vulnerable ones in this situation. And short-term campaigns will help, but not for a long time.
Long term, yeah, correct.
Yeah. Well, Ritesh mentions that ultimately government stimulus will be required for garment manufacturing sector. And also, Sabina was asking for the brands that are on the list of that haven't paid their orders. Let me tell you, darling, it's Primark, CNA, Gap, ASOS, Urban Outfitters, Arcadia, Topshop, Walmart, JCPenney, Next, Tesco, Kohl's, Mothercare, Bestseller. And then the ones that have said that they will be paying up, but will not, not yet have been done the payments is Inditex, Zara, H&M, Target, BF Corporation, which is Timberland, Vans, and the North Face, PVH, which is Calvin Klein, Tommy Hilfiger, Kiabi, Nike, Adidas, Uniqlo, Marks and Spencers, and LPP. So all these ones are still, they need to really finish their commitment, as they said that they will be paying up. So yeah, do you guys think that after COVID, because all these also is because we have, like what Maura was saying, we have a certain pace, and it's very fast-paced industry with the 52 weeks. Will it help maybe actually if all the factories slow down production and maybe do it in a different way? Do you think there is going to be out of the lockdown, out of this, definitely, I'm gonna say slow down, but it's really kind of like even in some cases a stop. Do you think we're gonna be coming back doing business as usual, or we're actually gonna think of, okay, we're gonna need to pivot and do it in a different way, maybe slow the production, maybe do on-demand production? What do you guys think?
I don't think we will get back on the pace where we were before anytime soon. It is going to take few years for us to get back to where we were, get back to square one, which is good actually, because by this time, as I already told you, the slow fashion is what will work with all the conditions that are happening around the world. And I would say in fashion, we are just beginning to feel the heat. We have not entered the real problem yet. We don't know how the whole thing is going to pan out once the lockdowns are over, how the economy is going to turn out. We don't know what is ahead of us. So we will have to come up with innovative solutions for the problems that we can't even expect. We can't even predict what is going to come. So we will have to be more innovative. I think digital platforms will gain more momentum. I just read somewhere that, the amount of usage of digital platforms in the past 4 months is higher than the past 5 years. So we will be using a lot of digital stuff. I think the change rooms in all the retail stores will not be the same anymore. People will try on do trials, and there will be a lot of video conferencing with the clients rather than going to them and meeting them and talking in person. Of course, brands have already started doing virtual runways, and so digital world will be explored, and I'm really eager to see what are all the innovations that is going to come up, because as we all know that necessity is the mother of invention. So we will be facing a lot of new problems, and I think we will all be more creative in finding solutions for their problems. And I think we all find those solutions in a very responsible way, like not like before, and that is exactly why we got this reset button hit. So slow fashion is the only way at least for the next couple of years. And resale and renting, everything is going to boom. I think this is also, it's not only a warning from Mother Nature in terms of us throwing trash, it is also a warning from Mother Nature to all the fashionistas around the globe. Let's learn this lesson.
I agree with one point with you. We know, like, okay, yes, the digital platform will grow, because I just got an email on 9th of April that this time the 127th Canton Fair is going to be online. So Canton is the biggest fair, around the world. So in the March, it was reduced May, I think. So it was not happened. So now the late June, they're deciding to have online this time. So of course, this Alibaba, and they are doing their sale online. So they're doing this. So of course, the digital platform will grow for all these things. So that one point I agree with you. But regarding this sustainable fashion, yes, what Mrs. Morris was saying, that yes, we should have the practice. We should practice more on the sustainable side. than the product, because the world is not ready for that one, because that's overall the disposable income around the world, and with the COVID coming, it's not, people will not have that much of disposable income that they can go and buy even little expensive goods. So it will take time. I'm not saying that it's not possible or it will not happen. We should concentrate more on social practice, social activities now, sustainable activities and sustainable practices in the whole chain, right from the production to the retailers. So that's the good thing, that we should do this right now.
Do you guys think also something that may change is actually going back to producing in the particular countries, you know, like, because when China shut down, everybody was suffering where to find their mask, for example, and everybody started doing masks as crazy. Do you think this is something also that maybe we get to, okay, let's reignite our industries in every country that, you know?
I'm seeing this actually, guys, with our client base as well. There's a lot of this conversation because obviously we work with a lot of independent brands and stuff like that. So there's huge conversation about going back to producing locally and stuff like that, which in theory is wonderful. And of course, people are more inclined now to support their local economies, and they're kind of looking at different ways to do it. But again, the same problems that have always been with local production is smaller minimum quantities cost more. That is simply, you know, the bottom line. And it's about what you can sell that product for. If you can't make a margin, you don't have a business. So therefore you can't, you know, scale or employ people or do anything like that. So the same issues. And here in the region, there are some great local producers, but people won't pay the prices. So they go to local tailors and stuff like that who don't have the finishing capacities or the technical abilities to maybe read tech packs and things like that. So that's another big problem. And raw materials. Raw materials are very expensive in places like Saudi, here in UAE, depending on the quality you're buying. We can get them in abundance, but they're not sustainable fabrics. So if you're importing the actual textile and you are actually producing locally, the cost of your product is significant, and it actually prices you out of the market in a lot of cases. You know, it would be amazing if we were able to change that structure somewhat, so people could still not overproduce and do more limited editions and stuff like that. But again, it's down to how much are you going to pay for that product in the open market. So in theory, I think it's brilliant that people are asking these questions. I am a huge advocate of local production, always have been, but there are a lot of problems with that as well, which is why then people start looking abroad. And I don't actually think that there's anything wrong with producing locally or abroad, as long as you know where your product is coming from and the processes that are in place. Like those independent brands and stuff don't usually kind of fall into the bigger conversation we're having now, because they're not producing 50,000 units of something. So they're not using that size of facility. They're probably using other family run production in a different country. So I kind of think it depends on the size of the company, you know, with this conversation in general. But as in general sense, if you're going to bring production into a local environment, it's again down to price, and it's again down to who are those workers that are going to do it, what are they being paid, and have they now become the most vulnerable in this new society again? So are you just changing it? Are you just changing the same problems from another country to your locality, like ethical problems I'm talking about? Because, correct, you know, I don't mean to sound cynical about it. I would absolutely love for a lot of these things to change, but I think we have to be real about it as well. You know, if we started low cost production here, people would be paid, you know, already the tailor salaries and stuff like that are on the floor. It's not a living wage for a place like the UAE. So when you take it into a bigger kind of thing, if somebody was going to do a big production facility, you know, who's being hurt there? And is, you know, okay, that's an ethical kind of thing, but sustainability is also highly linked to that.
Yeah, I also think that you know, if we take somewhere like the UAE, we are saturated with global brands. So you know, I know there are a lot of sort of small local labels, and you know, correct me if I'm wrong, because it's not my part of the industry, but it becomes very difficult to get the mass consumer to start purchasing local brands when we are so saturated by global brands. And the reason we're saturated is because of the UAE economy. I mean, Dubai has just been announced in early 2019, the #1 shopping destination in the globe for fashion, overtaking London. So fashion shopping is one of the economy's key drivers, and why would the UAE economy switch from the focus on having all of these global fashion brands and these massive malls featuring, you know, all the well-known brands across the world, to supporting the small you know, independent labels, because the infrastructure just isn't there yet.
Mm-hmm. I think as well, with that one, I think there's a couple of other things that come into it here as well. Of course, the economy is really reliant on retail, but I also think that this recent situation is also going to reduce the amount of global brands that are here, because we do a lot of kind of work with global expansion as well, and brands just don't have the funds now to come into new markets, and they're playing it safer. And also, unfortunately, a lot of those high street brands are going to be gone. You know, we're seeing daily closure of all of these big global brands. So, I mean, I think in a year's time, there will be a lot less. But I do agree with you. I do think that everybody has got very used to it here. But there has also been there's a couple of things there. You know, the mindset as well here is that the products are better if they come from Europe. So they don't see the same value in the local designers' products, which may be even better quality, let's face it, than a lot of what's out there. But the value system is not there. I think it's shifting a little bit, but you know, it's nowhere near it needs to be. But I think that that's a big problem as well, is that kind of mindset that Europe is better. You know, in Europe and the US, there's a similar kind of situation going on. So I think that's always going to play a part in it as well. I do think that people will start to see a little bit the value a little bit more now in supporting local, because they want the economy to come back. But I also think that retail is traditionally too strong here for it to make a big impact immediately.
Yeah.
No, definitely not immediately. I'm sure it'll happen because if we also get the local, the celebrities and the locals involved and get them to start supporting this, people will start. I mean, even if it was from Europe or anywhere, once they see, I mean, the local, or they see a celebrity or someone that they follow in fashion make that shift, and they start buying locally, the people who are following social media has a huge impact also on this. So
because society and consumers are fickle and they have herd mentality.
True.
You know, but until we make those changes across the board, it's
I think they have to be bigger changes. It can't just be one or two people kind of advocating this. It needs to be like a mass.
Like fashion revolution, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what we are here.
Yes,
Deborah mentions that when the local brands are adopted abroad and they come back, they have that recognition too. So it's a matter of supporting them enough to be able to go abroad and maybe, you know.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Deborah, that's definitely true. Guys, we need to start finishing. I want to read some questions that we had. For example, Deborah was asking about the swing circles and how to mend and repurpose. And Aisha has shared the next event, and actually we have more events within Fashion Revolution Week. So on the 26th, we have a mending workshop with Natalia Conforti from Glitches and Stitches. So you guys also can check it out and join. It's going to be awesome. And also more comments. Kumar was saying, like, every country must start producing essential medical products in their own country and start preparing for any next pandemic. And I think, yeah, that would be wise, definitely. Then Yeah, and I think that's about it. Resale says that is the way for the future. But maybe I'm
Who
a little
says
bit.
that?
That was me.
Sean, and it's true. But Sean, someone was mentioning also before, but so many comments. It has been very, very interesting that reading the comments. Sometimes I was like a little bit in there. Yeah, with regards to the viruses, how is it affecting retail? For example, is there fear to actually?
We don't do rental. We don't do rental. So
Okay.
it specifically, it's a little bit off topic for us. But in the same way that if you go to one of the well-known high street brands and you pick up a piece from the shop floor that's been tried on by, you know,
Exactly.
10 other people,
Exactly.
it's exactly the same issue. So it's, I mean, obviously for us, look, we're a small local company. You know, the store has been closed since lockdown started. So you know, it's having an immediate effect on our day-to-day business. You know, we are a small team and everyone's working really hard from home, but because all of our product is at the store, it makes it sort of very difficult to work remotely in terms of sales. But we're not just focusing on sales. That's not what it's about. It's, you know, we're about raising awareness and making sure that post-lockdown, you know, our small businesses and other small sustainable businesses are still around, because you know, I don't just sort of believe in sustainability. I also believe in small businesses. It is the made part of the economy, and it is the way that the economy will grow, will bounce back. So from everyone's point of view, you need to support small local businesses across all aspects. I think we were talking about groceries early with Marta on the chat. There are a lot of small businesses out there giving you the option of package free in terms of your groceries, so you can shop digitally online and go package free, which is amazing. So there are loads of options out there to support local, and that's what we need to do, especially if it's sustainable.
Exactly. So we need to finish here, guys. Thank you so much for this amazing panel. It has been very, 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 very entertaining. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot of things with all of you guys. Thank you so much. I hope everyone stays safe now that we can go out. Stay safe. Be still with your mask and your gloves and all your gear. Ramadan Kareem for all of you, because today is the first day of Ramadan.
Yeah.
And yes, and check the rest of events that we have going on in Fashion Revolution. You can go to the Facebook page of Fashion Revolution UAE. You have all of them listed there. If you are needing any particular help or assistance, you can get in touch with me or with Aisha. We're here to help any questions you guys may have. And stay tuned, because later today, we're going to be actually disclosing the names of the 10 shortlist finalists for the student competition of Fashion Revolution. Aisha, do you have the time when you're going to be doing that?
Hopefully by 5. We're just collating everything together.
Right.
So yeah, but thank you everyone again from our side too. Really, really happy to see all of you on the panel and your discussions and your views. And for our audience who've been pouring in questions and comments and actually listening.
Yes, and showing up. Thank you for not going to the beach today and being here with us.
Dozing off on the computer early morning today. So very appreciated. Thank you. And please follow our page, and any support, any questions, anything that you can help us with, collaborations that we could do with you, even if you're small businesses here or anywhere else. Maybe we can connect you with the Fashion Revolution teams in your countries, because I can see there are many people here from other countries too. So please let us know, and stay safe. God bless.
Yes. Thank you so much for everything, for being here.
Thank
And let's keep in touch for future collaborations and everything, because that is what is the number 17 of the SDGs, is the Sustainable Development Goals, is collaboration and partnership for the goals. So here we are. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks, Araceli. Bye.